Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hello to the live viewers. And if you're watching this on replay, thank you for being here. So, wow. Face to face with the confusion with Simon, myself on the sofa, and Shelley Sageheart. Hey, Shelley.
Hi, Simon.
Awesome. So a couple of we just want to lay down a few pointers to you guys watching. So if we're going to speak for a certain amount of time and cover a few questions, and then you guys, if you've got any questions, if you're watching this video on Google Plus, then you can, underneath the video where you're watching it, you can leave us questions, ask us some questions throughout. I did try to set up the Q&A. For some reason, it didn't work, so I have to come over there and look a bit later. So just feel free to put your questions there, and later on, me and Shelley will take a couple of those questions. It's potential that I might invite somebody on live if you've got it all set up and that works, but I haven't actually. Me and Shelley haven't done that before. We're just taking questions at this stage. Okay, so before we begin, I'd like us, wherever you are in the planet, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are on your journey, no matter what age you are, gender or whatever, just going to ask everybody just to take a moment. Now, you might have already done this, depending on the way you prepare for conversations or taking this deep dive, but it's really nice if everybody on the call and all of us just tune in together. And it's really important if we just take this few moments. So I'm going to invite you, wherever you are, if you're sitting comfortably, just to close your eyes. And we're going to just breathe. We're going to just do a few deep breaths together. And if you're out there and you've first time you've come to this talk, or the first time you've watched Simon on the Sofa, or this is the first video you've watched in this series, sometimes, I want to cover and be able to speak and communicate to everybody depending on where they are. So some people will feel strange closing their eyes and breathing before about to listen to a conversation. Some people have never closed their eyes and focused on their breath. So wherever you are in your own personal journey, don't worry. All this is we're not going to do some mad meditation or anything like that right now. We're just going to breathe. And what closing your eyes and breathing does for me, just so you know where I'm coming from, is just allows us just to ground everything in. Maybe you've come from work, maybe you've just rushed in, maybe you've jumped on the call a bit late, maybe you just, whatever, there's stuff going on in your world right now. And if you just take a moment to breathe, it just brings us into why we're here together. So close your eyes and breathe in through your nose and out your nose. And while you're breathing in through your nose, imagine you're breathing in gratitude, love, joy, acceptance. Imagine you're just breathing in positive breath, life force, all the beautiful oxygen. And when you breathe out, imagine you're breathing out any judgments, any expectations you have of tonight's call, any expectations or need to know an outcome, any identity, belief, concepts, anything. Just breathe out. Any fears, just breathe them out. Imagine they're just letting them go. Imagine that like a waterfall is just flowing out of your nose, and you're just letting go of all those words and concepts that I just shared. So you're just breathing in love, gratitude, presence, being here now, and breathing out any fears. We're just going to sit for a moment and listen to these beautiful chimes. Just keep that breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, allowing the body to relax. So slowly just allowing yourself to just come back into the room wherever you are. If you've just open your eyes slowly. We just do that just to allow ourselves just to connect into this present moment, connect into this breath, connect into life right now. So, hi everybody, I'm just going to let Shelley tell you a little bit about this second theme that we're doing for this 4-part series. Shelley, do you want to just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so welcome to our second theme, which is man. And in preparation for today's talk, we have our 2 primary questions, and then I just threw another one there in today that's sort of a third contemplation that we might meet in the conversation. So I'm just going to read those questions out loud now, just sort of to set the tone to begin our inquiry. Are men evolving consciously, and where are they headed? How are men building a new codex for the future generations? And in what ways can the masculine change course to more honor the biological life of the planet? So those are the questions. I know that probably, like myself, Simon, you've been sort of already thinking ahead on this theme and have had introspections for yourself on where you might want to go with the conversation and what's meaningful to you as a man, and what you would like to open up as possibility in the conversation. So I recognize that the questions are really just a starting point, and I invite you to really, I really would like to honor you in this space and ask you to really, come on in and bring what you've got. Bring it on. I'm really curious and excited to hear from you. And that's where I would like to start, is in that invitation to share. Yeah.
Well, I've definitely got the mask on. Wow. The mask of I love this. I love this mask. I found it the other day. It's quite relevant actually for a talk on man. Although I could wear that for the whole talk. Yeah. So let us take a moment. I think for me, as you know, I like to show up in these conversations and not necessarily have too much pre-planned, preconceived. So I've been pondering this conversation, of course, this week, and a few moments popped up. And also, just as a man, just maybe it's nice to share with the audience a little bit, I feel, just about me as a man. So maybe it can put into context where maybe some of my ideas and stuff might come from. And I don't even really like the word idea, maybe just my experience of what it means to be a man right now, and maybe what it means to even contemplate what it, conscious, a conscious man, if we're even able to be a conscious man at this point, or maybe just a little bit more conscious than we have been, or I speak for myself, than I have been. So it's really key that people understand, I feel anyway, Shelley, that I grew up in a world of a counsellor state. I grew up in deprivation, you could say, a lot of domestic violence. And some of the people watching this talk, and Simon on the sofa, I've got glimpses of my story throughout. I was into crime at a young age. I went to jail when I was 18. I come out of jail, I was following an acting path. I was drug dealer and nightclubber and taken a lot of drugs and tried most drugs apart from heroin. And, you know, I was very much on a well driven by hedonism and fame and fortune bargain. I was really fueled by fear. I was really fueled by the addiction that I had to fear and the excitement that I got from doing things that were supposedly wrong, you know, and dangerous and on the edge. And most of my relationships, you know, I never really had necessarily an awareness around what a relationship was really doing for me as a man. So, you know, they were pretty much just based on diving in the unknown and, you know, sexually connecting the best I knew how. But I grew up in prostitution and pornography and coming from that, you know, space where a woman, especially from a man's perspective, is there to, you know, to be looked at and a sex object, and you know, in the media and so on, they're very much seen as like, look at her, she's gorgeous, she's fit, or I'd like to, I'm going to say the word shag rather than the F word, but it would normally be like, I'd like to, you know, sleep with her. And you're very much coming from a place that I would call, and I write about this a lot, is that unconsciousness, a very much in my terms, a dysfunctional way of relating to myself as a man and relating to woman. So I just want to throw that out there for people that are watching as well, because when I talk now, you know, I'm very much shifted a lot of my awareness, and but my experiences have been in very extreme cases. You know, the girls that I've been with have had abortions because I've looked at my father leaving me when I was young, so I've gone through abandonment issues. I've looked at my wound around that and how my fear to be a man, or fear to be a father, or fear of making the mistake that my father made, the fears around society and how you should be as a man, and then, you know, looking at how my mum was treated by her men, and just how men showed up in my life, and how there was a lot of misogyny, which we spoke a little bit about last week, Shelley, and how that misogynistic man, that sort of couple of generations back, you know, my dad's and then my dad's dad, you know, that in my era growing up, that was a world of racism as well. So, you know, you're coming into that as well, this racism where it's like, you know, everything's about separation, and it's about how can I get on and how can I do great and how am I going to be somebody from quite a dysfunctional standpoint, but still nevertheless coming into that, you know, I've got to be a success. To be a man, I've got to be strong, and I've got to be a success, and I've got to have a reputation or respect, or, you know, some form of acknowledgement, basically, in a nutshell. And I think that as I've grown older and explored this on all levels, that, you know, that stands for everybody. You know, everybody goes through this. Even when I've evolved and moved into different dynamics of people, then that's also shown me that regardless of whether I come from maybe a domestic violence, dysfunctional, slightly deprived background of, you know, or crime and drugs, etc., as I've mentioned, I still started to notice the similarities in just people that are maybe grew up in a rich background, or, you know, grew up in, never done crime or drugs or anything in their life, never drunk any alcohol. You know, I started to really notice similarities of the engraved foundation of fear around unworthiness, lack of love, shame, guilt, and so on. Okay. I don't know if you want to speak to any of that before I continue, but I'm just trying to give a context, Shelley, if you're feeling that.
Yeah, please continue. I love the flow.
So, yeah, cool. So, so then if we sort of catapult forward a little bit as me as a man on a journey, and then look at, you know, starting to really explore relationship and what it means to be a loving, kind, open-hearted man. You know, in 2007, I met a woman and had a, you know, again, people know this, some people know this story, but for those that don't, I met a woman and had a huge transformational experience of what I called love, real love, unconditional love. And what happened at that point is that something shifted for me. Sorry? Okay, so what happened for me is something shifted, is that, you know, I talk about this as being an epiphany and a shift in awareness, a complete opening, you could say, just a crack opening, and a lot of armor fell away, and it opened my awareness to life, actually, like life, the planet, the space, the elements, my senses, everything shifted. Now, at first I didn't know what I was experiencing, so I thought maybe, okay, I've fallen in love with this woman, what's going on? But it continued, and it was way beyond just falling in love with a woman. This was like falling deeply in love with myself as life. Let's just say it like that, as life force, and then falling in love with everything else about life on all levels, like the whole thing, sounds, taste, sense, the oxygen, gravity, whatever, all of these labels that we've given it, nature, trees. I mean, it was just like such a deep opening. It's like, it's even when I say it, I sort of feel a deeper connection to that moment again, or those moments. And this went on for a number of months and then continued. So what happened, Shelley, and for everybody listening, is that made me ask some serious questions, which some people do and some people don't. But as me as a man, it made me ask some serious questions, which were, what is love? What is truth? Who am I? What is going on here? And what's my connection to all of this? These were some of the key questions that started to, permeate out of me. And, I'd been on a journey and so on. So I think just bringing that into the context of me then, this last 8 years, on this deep inquiry into what is love, what is truth, how am I able to experience this? How am I able to experience this love, and what does that show up? So that pretty much took me into a deep inquiry, and this a continued inquiry into, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a provider, what it means to be a grand creator of reality, what it means to notice that all of my actions have a ripple effect and impact the greater whole. So this shifted everything, because what happened is that it made me ask, or realize, shall I say, a huge realization that I was lying. I was lying so much, okay? And this is beautiful, because this brings it into what come up for me this week, which is beautiful, and then we can dive in deeper in that, is that in that space of realizing that I was a liar, and that there was a lot of information coming into me showing that we were not only living in a foundation of fear, more and more so, but actually most of society that we knew it was living on the foundation of these lies that stem from fear. We lied because of our deep fear. And what that did for me is it made me say, well, okay, I'm going to make a conscious decision. I'm going to make a decision to stop lying. That's my thing. Simon Paul Sutton, me, I'm just going to stop lying. Mm-hmm. And that really then took a deep experience, because it's like, wow. It's like I started to notice the subtleties of how I'd lie, and then I started to notice that everybody else was lying, and then I started to notice that everywhere was just lies. So I was like, well, how am I going to stop lying amongst all this lying? I'm going to be like, talk about ostracize myself, put myself into a space of just like, talk about, trust Simon to go against everything. Because, I've been known to be a bit of a rebel anyway. So it's like, yeah, great. Now just like, now you're going to flip up everything. You're going to go against everything, you're going to, so in this journey, which has been so rich, it's constantly been asking me to check in with myself about where I'm lying, what do I know, what is real for me, and how can I get to the depth? And this is why it's beautiful, why this is what come up for me this week, is if we just dive in with that first question of, how are conscious men evolving? It's like, when I ask that question, all that come up for me, and again, speaking to all of you beautiful people watching this video, there is no one way in my understanding. I'm just saying that for me, the thing that keeps coming up, if man is saying anything right now, and I speak for me as a man, and that's purely my expression, then it is, we have to stop lying. That is the biggest, that is my revelation of what it means to be a man. I have been saying to me constantly, Simon, stop lying, stop lying, stop lying. You don't need to lie. We don't need to lie. And as we embrace what that even means, because that's a deeper dive in itself, when we as men embrace this, I said, Shelley left the building. She's gone. She's like, I'm out of here. I'm not, if I've got to stop lying, she's just run off. Right there. Are you there, Shelley? Right there. Sorry, guys. I just need to check if you can hear me because my mic unplugged. Shelley's run off. See, this is what happens when you this is what happens when you talk about lying. People run away. People don't want to dive into the lie. People don't want to face the lie within themselves because it's scary. We have to look at so much, you know, so much that's been created from our life, from that space of not knowing and unworthiness and shame and guilt. As I said before, we don't want to face these darker aspects of ourselves. So I hope you guys can still hear me. I'm just going to continue until Shelley comes back because she looks like she's disappeared. I think something might happen down there in California. So how is this relevant? Because as a man, in order to face yourself, in order to face the lies or the fear, let's just say face the fear, in order to open, in order to even contemplate what it means to open and to dive into the depths of who you are as an individual, just as a man, it brings up so much because you start to look at, you know, your past conditioning, your sexual dysfunction, sexual viruses that we have, our ancestral path. We have to look at all of the experiences that man have gone through. The wars, the abandonment, the absent father, the ripple of our conditioning, of all of the domination, the suffering, and the acts of violence that man have created. Hey, hello.
Hey there.
What happened there?
I'm coming back in. I'm sorry, my power went out.
Ah, okay. But you can hear me perfectly, yeah?
Yeah, so I hope you just talked on without me. I missed part of the conversation.
It was quite, yeah, it was perfect because I said as soon as I started talking about lies, you've done a runner. It's like I said, nobody wants to face the lies. They're just going to run. I'm getting out of here, sharpish.
And I was just like, oh, come on, I'm out of here.
Yeah. The whole power just went. It's like, oh my God, not the lies. No, I don't want to talk about the lies. Yeah, so I think if I just bring you in, because, you know, again, it'd be nice to have your interjection now. So I continued to talk about Shelley, but without having to repeat it for the live viewers and everybody, but just how when you ask that question as a man of what it means to lie and what it means to live truth, you start to look at all of your past conditioning and the conditioning of man and our ancestors and war and domination and patriarchy and absent fathers and abandonment and all of this other stuff starts to come up of what you realize that you're also you have blueprints of that within you, that you know that you've been that every man before you and woman of course, but every man before you has had some sort of you could say energetic connection on some level, you know, even if you just look at how man is still dominating much of many of the choices in the world, or especially if you go into business, or, you know, I know women are coming through more and more, but a lot of women that have had to come through have had to adopt masculine traits in order to even be able to, you know, take part in business and what, you know, all other aspects of our society. So as a man right now, I'm saying that when we go, I'm going to make a conscious decision to be an authentic. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to dive into the depths of my emotion. I'm going to feel everything that I'm feeling, and I'm going to be able to dive into my vulnerability and communicate from that place. That's for me where we're almost reprogramming the you could say the DNA or the structure of what it means to be a man. So I'm just going to throw that out there and let you see what fires back from there.
Sorry, my electricity just came back on. My wiring is
awesome.
I think I may have blown a fuse entirely though. So
you may have what?
I might have blown a fuse like where my lights were plugged in. That's why I lost my lights. That's
okay. I thought you said, yeah. I thought that might be because we're confused.
So, yeah. So I'm just gonna roll without lights, and
you look great.
Yeah. So, right. It's the way in which men experience themselves in the world, and the way in which women experience themselves in the world in the modern day is, you know, we're at the point that we're at is a result of occurred in our ancestry, the way it's gone down, and the beliefs and experiences that the people that came before us had and held, and how they, you know, how they feared their way through those experiences, and how they loved their way through those experiences. And so everything that we, you know, as individuals in the present moment are showing up with contains, you know, elements of both the lies and the confusion in our ancestry, as well as the element of love, or whatever that feeling of goodness that was able to also come through our ancestors and translate it into, you know, the perpetuation of the human race. You know, I like I said in the previous video, I don't think we would have, or if everyone was just always feeling bad, or like if there was no such thing as love. I think love has been a continuum all along. And so and I also want to address that I really think that the continuum is a co-creation between masculine and feminine energy, and men and women, and that there's really no there's no total truth in finger pointing. It's sort of like, it's like an interwoven experience that we share. There's cause and effect in the ways that the confusions happen in the individual, and then meet that other person's confusion. So for myself as a woman, my confusion will meet the confusion of a man's in another way. And so I guess the point that I want to make with that is just that the only reason we would even address sort of the continuum of unconsciousness and is out of that desire to root out and have, so that we may have a deeper understanding of some of the primary disconnects that have happened. And then really just, I don't even really know what the result of that is. I'm beginning to see that it's really a personal experience, how we begin to transmute energy. And so in terms of like you know, there's things that I recognize in what you're saying about the lies and the way that you know, the way that your inquiry into yourself is, you know, taking you deeper into explorations of self-awareness. And for I think it's really important when we're having a conversation, you know, between men and women about, for example, man, like we've kind of like the focus is sort of on that theme, that we, like what I saw was like, it's really important that I really want to allow you to define the course of what that is, because although I may see things and I may have my own experience of that, if I can't get interested in what your experience is and learn to navigate you through your own exploration, I'm really just kind of having my own experience and pushing it onto you. And so I really want to, you know, I know that we already have that trust between us, that we can go beyond that kind of way of relating. And I just wanted, so again, I want to open up the conversation to asking you how, you know, as men are evolving consciously, what do you know in your conversations with yourself and other men about like what the, like from where we've been at, where are we heading? Where can this go? Where can this consciousness go? This inquiry into self.
Yeah. So, yeah, I talked to. See, the thing is, it's such a beautiful conversation, and I think it's needed more. I've experienced some men's circles, and there's a lot of amazing people out there that have been doing men's circles. And something I think really what's coming up in the back of my mind as you're talking is that we have to really be also respectful and acknowledging that, you know, this way of men maybe being more consciously aware is something that's been also around for thousands of years. You know, there has been men throughout history that have been, you could say, more aware than other men. And the key also, I feel, is to really clarify that what happens, I think, especially from a man's perspective, you say, oh, I'm more aware, and we have to be mindful that we don't fall into the, you could say, the sort of slightly out of aligned or unhealthy ego of competitiveness of like, oh, well, I'm aware and you're not aware, and I'm unconscious and you're conscious, you know, because there's that dance between, judgment of what it means to be aware and not. Because I think I said this to you the other day, is that somebody who's in a certain environment, maybe even in an environment that is what I'm calling dysfunctional and deprived, could have huge awareness but not be out there, or not even vocalize it, or, you know, could be having huge experiences and not trying to crystallize them or try to somehow justify them, etc., and make them a tangible experience that somebody else should or shouldn't experience. Does that make sense? Or should try to experience. So when I think about where men are headed, when I think about the men I speak to, because like attracts like, you attract what you are, no matter what stage you're at in life. When I was a criminal, I attracted criminals. When I was a liar, I attracted liars. When I was going on a quest of truth, and you know, I was attracting people on a quest of truth. When I started dancing, I attract dancers, and so on and so forth. So you're always attracting what we are, and there seems definitely to be multiple dimensions and ways that you can experience life, because some people will just get what I'm talking about or you're talking about, and some people don't, and that's totally okay. And some people will think we're crazy and balmy, and some people will think that, wow, you know, this sounds like where humanity is heading, depending on, you know, where you navigate your own personal inquiry. So one of the things for me is that if I think where the men that I've been speaking to and me myself is directing, is just what I said earlier, just this more deeper connection to myself and to other on all levels. And I mean other from every relationship to woman, relationship to family, relationship to every, the planet, connection to nature. And in that, there seems that a transformation takes place in the way that you observe yourself and interact with life on a whole. For example, to give you maybe a more practical, grounded look on that, is that there's certain things you just can't do when you start to inquire deeply and strip layers away of lies or dysfunction or challenge or shame or guilt, or you look closely at your deep core of unworthiness or your need for love, but not knowing how to obtain that at times. And I also want to speak about a little bit of the confusion that I've experienced, where I've experienced what some might call love and beautiful love. And then in that, you open to this vast, let's just call it vastness. Let's not even call it love, because people have got so many attached words to the word love. Let's call it, you open to life in all of its majesty, in all of its beauty, in all of its, in all of it, full stop. And that's profound. That's overwhelmingly mind-blowing experience to just be a part of all of it and to feel yourself as just being a part of all of it. But what happens in that, which is sometimes the scariest thing ever, is that there's a lot of terror and fear and shadow and darkness that comes with that. So it's like you open, and then within that opening, everything opens. So at times, I think that we get caught, especially, I speak for myself, is that there's work to be done. And a lot of people shy away from that work. That's why the term ignorance is bliss is really, a key word in our time right now. Because, it's just one way of looking at reality. But if you're going to go inwards and do the work, then it's going to be a challenging. So one of the things that I'm experiencing right now is like how to open in love. How to really open with another in love, how to dive deep, how to soften, how to allow your feelings out, and also how to allow, in my case, a woman to come into that space and come into this space of me and enable me to open and also enable me to access the power that I possess as a living, breathing human creator, if that makes sense. And I think I might be digressing a bit there, but you can interject there or throw something in there. I don't even know if I answered your question.
Yeah. So I'm sort of pirating on my neighbor's internet right now. So
that's unbelievable. Talk about now we're the pirates. We were the pirates of consciousness.
So I'm wondering if you actually, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit longer, and I'm going to actually get up and troubleshoot my internet issue, because I feel like I'm choppy. I'm coming across choppy.
No, it's really good.
Okay, cool. Then I'll just speak a little bit to.
Yeah, the sound is good anyway. So I mean, let's
okay, we'll go with that for now, and I want to speak to the part about what you just said that really sort of is sticking with me, is that the way that love can, when we come into love, or even a loving field with others, or with one other individual, when we come into that space, I think we've sort of been trained that romantic is love. Like you get to that space, and then you've gotten to where you've been striving to be your whole life. You found that other, and now you're having fun, and you're having sex and you have ideas and things are happening, and it's going to all be, you know, amazing from there on out. It's going to be happy ever after, kind of. That's sort of the programming that we've received. And then often what actually happens is that in that coming together in love, and when the field actually expands into a more loving vibration, like what you said, this is my experience so far in my life, is that often that love vibration, we suddenly feel more held than we ever have. And so it's like, oh, something in our psyche goes, oh my God, I have permission to, like, you know, show up now, you know, all those other little voices that you sort of had suppressed in order just to get yourself to, you know, hopefully happily ever after. And so the first time we have that experience with a beloved, it can be shocking, where it can, you know, and it can even be a situation, you know, like I experienced in my life, where I was married for many years, you know, in a pretty happy, satisfied bubble, until that bubble mansion needed more than that bubble. You know, the love of the even the foundation of the marriage, you know, was a cauldron to get me to a new point. And so I think that is really just a beautiful to understand that about relationship and about love. And then I want to speak to something that I've also experienced in my relationships, which is that, you know, sometimes when a man comes into my field and he finally gets that kind of, it's like, you know, like he's having an experience of depth of love that he's never experienced and before, but it's not that happy ever after. He knows he hasn't hit there. It's like, what I've observed is that the behavior when we finally hit, like, oh my God, I'm actually being loved, you know, like the response, the run, you know, like how you were teasing me, like about, I took a run, right? And so I've noticed that in the masculine, like a tendency to run when the love really is present, when there's a true container being offered.
Right.
That can be like bring up tremendous fear, and so often what's happened is that there's had to be like a, you know, if there's a willingness for both people, kind of you know, like maybe a coming together and then a running away and then a coming back together, and like saying, hey, you know, like I was afraid, and out in this field and cook a little bit longer and see, you know, see what comes up next. And so to be willing to arrive. So I don't know if that speaks at all to.
No. Yeah. That's good. I can also, something's coming up for me as well. It's just like I'm trying to tune in. I want to just sort of tune in. If you're watching this and you're scared what tuning means, don't worry. It doesn't mean I'm going to get on the radio. Just sometimes we use that. I mean, I need to just like where am I at right now? Like I'm listening to this conversation. People around the world are listening to this conversation. You and I, Shelley, have come together to explore what it means to be human. And this is where I find myself after all this like mad adventure of life. And in this inquiry into like truth, there seems to be, and I'm going to throw this out there, a knowingness. And this knowingness is a feeling. It's a feeling of connection. It's a feeling of maybe just feeling that you're alive. It's a feeling It's a feeling that you exist, and that also in that awareness there's a knowing that you are dying every moment, and that this life is fleeting and it's temporary and it's impermanent, and life and death are not separate. It's like I'm dying right this moment. The words I'm saying are gone. The minute that they come up, they're gone. There's nothing to hold on to. And what I find is that, especially in myself, is that there's always been this wanting to hold on to something, wanting to hold on to stuff or own stuff. And you know, the relationship I'm in at the moment has been about, you know, how do we move out of ownership? Like even this idea that like there's this abundant love that's everywhere. And this is where I feel that, especially me as a man, is, and I'm speaking for men tonight, and guys, if you're out there, pop your questions in, and you know, and share your own experiences, because yeah, there is this almost deeper fear that I meet a lot of men, and they don't know how to be with one woman, for example. They don't know how to share their doubts. The amount of men I meet, and women, I'm not going to say it's just men, but the amount of men I meet, Shelley, who cannot say what they're truly thinking and feeling to women, because majority of them are still conditioned, it's neither right nor wrong, that they want other women, that they want to be with other women, that they want other sexual encounters, that they want, you know, a lot of men have so caught up in the sexual, I'm going to call it, I don't know, let's not even call it right, wrong, or whatever, just this sexual, not understanding their sexual needs and what's going on in their genitals, what's going on in their, this creative sexual energy that we have, that wants physical touch and wants to express itself and wants to feel hugged and held and stroked and told that it's okay, and that, you know, you can be soft and you can be great, and you know, you don't have to be this and that, and you know, you can be who you are. You're allowed to be an expression of whoever you are, and that can be sometimes held by friends or loved ones or, you know, family. Who knows who's going to hold that space? But there's a lot of, it's not, that space hasn't been there for men. So when I find that I'm in a sharing circle of men start to feel a bit supported to be able to express, you know, their fear around the size of their penis, or their fear around the rejection that they get when they want a woman and she says no, or their fear around this idea that they need to be strong and have the answers, or, you know, have the ability to look after their family or whatever, you know, all of these deep, maybe conditioned beliefs that are put onto us as men. So I'm gonna throw that out there. I don't know what's coming up for you, but I just want to hear a little bit back from you, maybe, and anything that I shared there.
Yeah, I guess what you're sharing is that in some ways there culturally there hasn't, you know, no, I don't want to say like a blanket statement, but maybe in some ways culturally a space hasn't been created for men to be in touch with those things and to speak their truth.
Right.
And that's a place for us to start, you know, is first for the man in himself, learning to question, you know, create that space. How do I feel? How does it make me feel when I want something? I want a woman in a particular way and she feels differently. How is it when I think I'm supposed to go out in the world and be somebody and provide for my family and I can't find a job, or I don't want a job, I just, you know, want to do something else, you know, like, so that starts with the man first, but then also how do we start to create, like as a woman, how do I create a safe space inside myself for the men in my life to come to those questions and those answers in my presence without feeling put upon?
Right. So this feels like, you know, what was our second question? You know, I always forget the questions. What was the second question?
I've got them written down. Well, so how are men, this is the flow into the next question, because it's how are men creating a new codex for future generations? Right.
So this is, yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, I framed that conversation a little bit around the fact that I know that some men are starting to gather in men's groups and do work together on, you know, the very thing we're sort of saying is needed, which is you know, how can we be better men? How can we be good men? What does it mean to be man? And so I would say that's sort of like, that's the place where men are meeting and starting to provide some of those a safe place for some of those unmet needs. And I've actually been specifically told that that's a place that you go to and share with men, and you don't even come back and like chat about it much with the women in your lives, because the men together are creating sacred space for some of that evolution that wants to happen. But where are we going with that? What's the new codex that's being created in the masculine when he starts to create a safe place for his feelings, his truth?
Yeah. Lovely. So I suppose the first initial thing that comes up for me is this. For me, it's all about inclusion. So, you know, for me, it's about group consciousness, groups coming together, and it's very much for me about inclusion. So as much as I do feel the power in men's circles, and I feel the power in women's circles, and I think that that's a great way of us coming to, and I've experienced this, coming to our own truth and being held. But there's something for me, and I've held strong to this, is that there's this mergence of bringing both together. So there's something really beautiful when men and women come together and really allow each other to be heard on all levels. So for example, let me give you an example. In the experience that I'm having, everything is welcomed. You know, everything is welcome. Whatever is going on is welcomed into the circle that myself and Dara in this case are creating. Now, that takes safety. There's something that you are very passionate about, Shelley. That takes a required level of safety to be created in you as an individual, and also the group, the collective, you know, where in relationship, and this is something that I feel, it's funny we're talking about relationship. I know next week is about relationship, but this is very important because as a man, I meet so many people. I've been coaching men and women for many years now, and the fear that comes up when people want to share what's really happening. I mean, not many people I know create safe spaces in their relationship. This is something I've been inviting people to do for a number of years now. Something I know that a lot of people in the world are doing. And it's something that's so powerful, no matter what reality you're living. If you're at work, if you're in a football team, if you're in a, you know, if you're in a, whatever, you know, it's like you create these circles of trust. Makes me remember of De Niro, isn't it, from that film, Robert De Niro, when he goes, "You're entering the circle of trust." You remember? I can't remember that film, but and so when everything is allowed, Shelley's done the runner again. She's gone. She's playing invisible Shelley tonight. So I speak to everybody listening. When that circle, when that sharing circle is created, and that you give permission to the other person to share exactly what they're thinking and feeling, and you're not going to personalize or assume, you're not going to give advice or guidance, you're going to just allow, you're just going to listen, then that opens up such a beautiful space of love, expansion, and enables us to move beyond our beliefs and attachment to identity, etc. Yeah, because in that space, the freedom and the liberation of it being okay for you to be experiencing and feeling and having thoughts and whatever it is, because then in that safe space, you can also deeply inquire into why they're there. They might not actually be how you want to live. They might not be how you want to interact and connect, but they're there nonetheless. So when you bring them into awareness and they're allowed air, they're allowed space, they're allowed to be heard, then all of a sudden there's a great space for transmutation and healing. And there's also a beautiful space to go, wow, if I'm sharing this and this is what I want and this is what I need, and that's not available from the woman or the man or whatever the context, then at least there's an honoring in the woman and the man to go, well, okay, then we're not, you know, that's beautiful, but we're not supposed to, you know, we've learned and grown and taken what we need from this experience. Now we can move on into whatever else we want to explore. But because of the ownership of relationship, the stifleness comes and the suffocating experience comes. And this blocks us being able to express who we really are and what we really want. So if there's man are writing a new codex for the next generations, it's that we can deeply connect to our emotions. We can deeply express our truths. We're not out to lie to people and take them for a ride. And however initially painful it might be, we're going to express our truth in that safe space. And then from that place, allowing such a beautiful, expansive love, understanding, awareness, and so on. Yeah. And I just want to say that that's what I've been experiencing by being allowed to share where I'm at and what's happening for me. So, for example, when you're in that place of transparency, you've got nothing to hide. When there's nothing to hide, you're not holding on to anything. And when you're not holding on to anything, you've got nothing to lose. And when you've got nothing to lose, there's a freedom, you see. Can you feel that? There's a freedom. So maybe, and this is just coming through as I'm talking, maybe man's invitation is to lead us or navigate us, with woman, of course, but all of us together, to lead us to that freedom, to lead us to that liberation. And that breaks down everything, all of the old preconceived ideas and cultural conditioning around what relationship is, what man is, what woman is, what marriage is, what bond is, what union is. And it gets us to really look at how it's inclusive and serving the whole and serving all. Anyway, that's enough. I don't know if you heard that. You disappeared again. I don't know what's happening tonight. It's just me.
Yeah,
it's just man.
I'm here now, right? You see me?
Yeah, I can see you now.
So I caught most of that. I was just trying to, I had to turn off my heat and see if I could get the electricity back on. And sorry. I had to do some man things.
Yeah, you had to do the masculine thing. I was being very feminine and just opening up to how I feel.
Exactly. So I had to do something.
Yeah, you had to go. You had to go and chop the wood. You had to go and build a car.
Exactly. I had things to do. But the one thing I noticed about how I do one way in which I do, I work with my male energy that's unique as a woman is I'm usually multitasking. So, for example, this morning I had to wake up and take my car into the shop, which involved getting in the car, driving to the shop, pulling up to the gas station, pumping gas, the whole time I'm like, I'm relating with my feelings and my feelings around what's into the space on the talk with Simon and what's important to talk about. And, so I'm sort of double tasking, and then I dropped my car off and now I'm walking home and I'm, and I'm like, wow. So how I work with male energy in myself is it's a multitasking kind of thing. It's like one part of me is, pre-planning my shopping list, and another part of me is, aware of how I feel and how I want to take that feeling into a continuum. And so that's just a little bit of one thing that came up for me that I wanted to share today. But I see that we are kind of in that range where we might want to start taking questions, and yet at the same time there's a piece that I want to address around safety in relationship, in relating as men and women, and maybe some of why men historically haven't had that, and what's perpetuating some of that disconnect. So are you open to going into that? Down that rabbit hole a little bit? Or what are you feeling in terms of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, speak to some of that for sure. I reckon we can do like 10 minutes. There's a few, we have some live viewers. We have some of the beautiful people that came with us last week as well. There's not many questions. If you guys are out there, you want to drop us a question based on anything we've shared. I shared something today on our forum from a wonderful man called Alex Fairman, who's a fellow younger next generation on the path. He's 24, I think, or 26 years old. I've met him. He's a fellow Pisces. And while we're talking about that, I just want to also say that men out there, I'm often saying, where are the men? Where are the men? I've met some beautiful men in my life, just who are on this path with me, and all the men that I've actually experienced life with, even in my days of just growing up. I want to acknowledge all the men today that I've had beautiful friendships with. Scott, Aaron, Manny, Alex, Sean, like my brother Lloyd, Asmund, Rashid, Alex Fairman. I mean, the list is endless. Andrew Arms, Darius, many. I have so many beautiful men around me, and every single man, like every single woman, like all of us, are so unique and got their different personalities and different Pisces, different star signs, and so we're all coming from that. Howard as well. I haven't even mentioned Howard. It's like it's who I'm with at the moment. Mark. I could just list the men that are around me that are amazing, supportive, creative, and all trying to also be the best that they can be. And I think sometimes, especially in maybe the New Age movement, which I know we're not necessarily advocating that, but the man gets the bad a little bit of bad press because of maybe some of the key figures in life that have created so much suffering have been men. And so I just want to say that 99% of the people that I meet, men and so on, are trying the best they can, are doing the best they can, are beautiful, loving people, loving parents, striving to, just striving to be the best they can, I think. I just want to throw that in there and just acknowledge that. And there is something that Alex wrote to me today, which I'd happily read if we don't get any questions. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay, so there's a few, I would love to hear what Alex said. I'd love that. And there's one quote that I wanted to share that addresses that thing about how just really like getting out of that whole mentality of like kind of being, making the masculine out to be the bad guy. Like I really want to move away from that and address the fullness of what men are bringing to our world. Because if we don't start with recognizing the qualities that are actually bringing support and are nourishing and are holding space and all the things that we want the masculine to do, if we don't already start with acknowledging that, then what are we doing? We're not creating a safe space for their inherent wisdom to come forth or for the evolution. So it's important to me that we sort of, in a sense, read by even being willing to be together on this conversation, that we're, in a sense, really resetting a field for the collective, and at least for our little collective that's forming around these conversations, of like really honoring that what the masculine brings is, like, at least in my experience, it's invaluable. Like I would not want life without what the men in my life, what you bring, what other men bring in terms of support and reflection and all of it. It's a treasure. I do have this one amazing thing.
Carry on.
Let me just read this quick quote. It's from a guy who's been posting online in the Beautiful World, A More Beautiful World page. His name's Jason Hine, and he wrote, We should not equate our mainstream dominator culture, the culture of coercion and control and disconnected and disassociated behavior that it engenders, with the essence of masculinity. Masculinity at its root or deepest essence has nothing to do with coercion or control or being cut off from life, from the body, or from the natural world. In fact, masculinity at its essence is deeply connected with life, with the body, and with the natural worlds. So I just wanted to, I guess I wanted to read that quote because I feel there is a, there's been a tendency in our culture to strongly associate masculine energy with the disconnect. And I do believe there's a certain responsibility to hold that aspect of masculine, the coercion, the misuse of energy, misuse of control, power, positioning, status, to call our culture on those things, to call each other on those things. And at the same time, to acknowledge that fundamentally, a man is just is a human being with connection, to all the same things that a woman has connection to.
Yeah.
I want you to share Alex's quote. I just want to touch on this one point really quick. I'm going to just say it, and we don't have to get into a lot about it because I know we're running out of time.
Okay.
I want to address what?
Your camera's gone off. I know. Go and try again.
Is my camera off now?
No. Go on. Crack on.
Okay. So I'm wanting to relax into the reality that the recording's challenging, but okay, so I just want to address what I feel is the what is responsible for creating historic current age, some of the masculine from nature, from his feeling reality and those things, and how that perpetuates as kind of, I believe there's sort of like a fundamental program running in our culture that actually leaves the masculine incredibly disempowered and kind of running more in an energy of like, how can I control and to get what I want? How can I take for, there's an entitlement in the energy, but that energy is not freedom. That energy is actually slavery. So, and how that translates is like having as much access as you want to pornography is not freedom. You've become enslaved to the pornography movement. Industry. You become, you are, you want to actualize your masculine energy in the world, but you think that the way that you have to do that is by buckling in your emotions, pulling up your trousers, putting on your boots, and going out into the workforce. And so there's a reclaiming of freedom that can happen for the masculine when he actually starts to reweave into the emotional body. The entry point for every being to those connections is what happens in their conception, their gestation, and their birth, and then the relationship that they have with their mother and father as they're developing as children. And so there's actually a lot of things that happen systematically to male children that start to cut off that to love, and actually, and it's even more specific, that cuts off that connection to the oxytocin and the feeling element of the masculine, and it directly addresses his sexuality, and one of those ways that that's done is with circumcision. Circumcision is one of the things that we're doing in our society that is directly related to, it's like it's a way in which the masculine's being controlled.
Yeah.
Why it is that is because it creates a disconnect from fundamental, like a fundamental safe love field within the baby's first, few days or hours of, I'm not actually sure when they do the operation of it. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, that's
born,
that's a violence in itself that is just, there's no rhyme or reason to that. Again, my friend Howard is passionate about that stuff and about the absent father and just the sheer dysfunction that takes place and is indoctrinated in all of us, on a collective conscious level as well. It's something that we don't take into account because we get just pumped into society and then, functioning in a society that's robotic and get on with life, without actually going into these deeper emotional recesses of what it is to be human.
Yeah, and so not to dwell on it, but I feel that there's deep wounding that has happened historically in the masculine that is there's like direct violence and violation that starts perpetuated through your lives, and then a tremendous request for secrecy, because I mean initially it's just secrecy of feelings, like you don't get to have feelings often, and one of the primary feelings being initially a sense of disconnect from the mother. I mean, if you don't have a positive bonding oxytocin related, like producing bond with your mother, it's going to be incredibly hard to reproduce that connection later in life with your women.
Yeah, we can also look at that and go into why there's so much abuse and why there's so much disconnect in every, from man to woman, full stop anyway, because it's on so many different levels. It's kind of it's so multi-layered.
Yeah,
but see, for me, we're getting into the juice now, because it's like, this is what happens with the conversation, is that I feel some of tonight's conversation is, skirted around a few things, and I've shared some things in the dysfunctional lives, but for me, I think that if places can be created where men can explore this stuff and just look into it, like all of this deeply rooted, thousands of years of suppression and suffering that we have endured, and at least get to bring that into awareness, that for me is where the juice is. That's really what I think often we're not willing to do, or we're not even, again, it comes back to this creating conversations like these, or inquiries like these, or circles, or whatever it feels for the individual to create that safe environment where we can just explore what this means. And some people may be listening to this, some of you out there, live viewers and so on, you might be like, wow, yeah, but as a man, I do notice a lot of avoidance to go there. Like, wow, why am I going to go there? There's so much distraction in our society. There's so much distraction of what we think we need to be doing as a man, creating stuff, doing this, that, and the other, where often we don't even have the time to contemplate how we're functioning. And again, I use my friend's name, Howard, who's a psychotherapist, and he very much looks at like where we're functioning from. Like sometimes we think that we're not functioning from suffering, yet we are, because if you look deeply at the pain body, if you want to call it that terminology, or that aspect, that dark aspect of ourselves, because that's been so suppressed, and it's in you could say the collective unconscious or the subconscious, and it's like a deep-rooted program, whether it be lack mentality or unworthiness or shame or guilt that I'm bringing up again, we don't actually know we're functioning from that, because we don't, when do we have time to actually explore and study and learn about these aspects of what it means to be human? And again, I'm using the word human now rather than just man and woman, because this is this is associated on, you know, for all of us. And this is why I feel that, you know, so this is why I feel that conversations like these and the continuing inquiry is really what is the new codex of us at least being able to communicate. Like I have friends, Shelley, that women that, you know, they talk about menstruation and don't even, still today, you know, you can't talk about the time of the month or a period and so on. It's like, you know, have we not even evolved where we're men, some men won't even talk about period or blood or, you know, that aspect of the yoni, and you know, it's insane.
Go on, Simon.
Now you've gone again.
I'm going to lose if I don't plug my computer in.
Oh yeah, you're flying anyway. See, look, now I'm talking about period and menstruation and you've run off.
Say it again.
Can't.
Well,
I can't.
You're gonna lose me, period, if I don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose your period. But the funny thing is, for everybody watching, is we're talking about safe spaces. We're talking about safe spaces and people listening to the man. And every time I talk about something, Shelley runs off. I mean, like, I don't feel supported. I just don't feel like I'm, you know, being heard here, Shelley. Feel like I'm gonna put the mask on again.
You have to remember. You have to remember, I'm multitasking, and I totally trust and know that there's other people in our field, like taking this journey in this conversation with us. So I just figured in that.
So okay, so I think we need to take some. I think we probably need to just acknowledge. I think we need to just acknowledge. Yeah, I think we need to just acknowledge everybody there. Maybe take a few questions, and just to say to everybody listening, I always like to bring it in, and I like to say that tonight, you know, even in this conversation, there's so many different sparks that we could go off on, and we covered whatever comes through, and Shelley's had technical issues. I was like tired at the beginning, and then I was getting ready thinking I was ready, and then there was something wrong again with the computer. So we have all this other stuff going on, and sometimes, yeah, just be with whatever comes up for you. Be whatever comes up with you, and maybe you want to explore, you know, because we can't go into everything in one conversation.
We want to go there.
yeah, I really do, and I really want to, you know, I really want to be that. Like, when I think of the next generations, I just want to say this. I want to mention Alex again. And, you know, whenever I meet anyone, I've got friends that are like 20, 24, 25, and now I see them as the next generation. And when I see them doing really amazing, inspiring things and looking at what it means to be, you know, human, and they're looking at their sexuality, and they're looking at how they influence consciousness, and they're looking at how their contributions and actions and thoughts create reality. And they're doing a lot of service work. I'm really, truly inspired. You know, this is a very positive vibration that I get from these beautiful people, because I'm not here as a pessimist, or like in a place of that it's all doomed and everything's bad and we've got all this shadow and wound. I'm just saying that in the wound, in that place of pain, if we're not scared of going there, that's where the freedom is. Because when I share that, when I'm with my partner or my friends, or I'm with Shelley and we go into it, it sort of dissolves, it dissipates. So for any men out there listening, you know, whatever your fear might be in any context with yourself or with relationship, I'm just saying, and young guys, teenagers, if there's teenagers out there watching this, or even younger, like, we're so powerful, man. We are all so powerful, yet we are in a realm still of ignorance, suppression, and deeply suffering. But together, in this way of communicating, transparent communication, together we are. It's happening anyway. I always say this: if me and Shelley die, this wave of truth, of authentic communication, of support, of community, it's birthing. We are making choices in this present moment to really be co-creators, catalysts, writers, directors, whatever you want, whatever you want to say. So I just want to throw it out there to people listening to know that, it's not so grandiose. It's very, I don't know. It's simple and complex simultaneously. Anyway, so anyway, I'm waffling now. I'm just.
I would just like to share my
questions. People, give us some questions. No questions tonight. Who's with us live? Who's with us live? Charlie,
I'd like
Eve,
to share.
Eldon, Elizabeth. Did I say that? Guys, if you're out there and you want to give us a question, otherwise we're going to just continue for a little bit of time. And Shelley, you want to say, what do you want to share? What are you reading?
Okay, this is rough, but this is I've been, I posted a while ago on Facebook about, I was trying to, I had written a couple of years ago, my I love you, I'm thank you, letter to the masculine. And at that time, I was really addressing all the men that I know in my life, my male friends, my ex-partners, all of it, my fathers. But it was a really foofy letter. It was super foofy. And I'm trying to sort of let that sift down into something more coherent and that makes sense for where I'm at today, how I'm feeling about the masculine. And I'd like to just share what I wrote, part of what I wrote, because I think it'll actually be a nice way to bring closure to our conversation or such.
Awesome.
I can't decide when it comes to my relationship with men. Do I want to thank you, lecture you, scream at you, or fall to my knees and beg for your protection? I guess it depends on who you are, because to be honest, my experience of masculine has been so diverse, so appreciated throughout all time, and also with challenges. I can't always tell who's leading who, and I like it that way, because I believe fundamentally we are in an evolutionary dance, two parts to one whole. It's only for this momentary vantage point of separation that she who calls herself Shelley, has a moment to ponder the dance moves of the other, and seeing how the other comes to us in so many different ways. It would be dishonest to generalize my relationship to man. I would prefer instead to do two things. I would like to open myself to see your experience, and more completely, I want to commit myself to being a bigger, better dancer, to listen better, to be in my center, and give you clear signals. I'm just going to stop there.
Why?
Because I think that's the best part. Because clear signals. That would be a good.
It's like I'm sitting here, I just was pondering, and I'm visioning different people, women in my life, friends that are women and men, and just seeing it all just before me playing out, and us here, and evolution, and in between stories, and community, and next generations, and the information age, and billions of people, and the internet, just observing and seeing it all, and I was just thinking of, like, ultimately, how do we become great navigators? How do we just step into that space of navigating and knowing that we are part of something so huge, and that we can give ourselves to something far greater than what we've been told, and that everything that we've been told just probably isn't, or clearly isn't, if you've been exploring long enough, isn't how we've been told it is, and I was just thinking, I'd love to talk more about you know, sexual union, and because as you was talking, I was listening to your letter. There's such a disconnect of male and female. Like there's such a beauty when I see two humans connecting and cuddling, and man to man, woman to woman, you know, and just being allowing themselves to just feel each other and allow the body to feel and allow connection. Oh man, this is just about connection. We all just want connection. I see so many people that are numb and desensitized and walking around in this like comatose psychosis, and we just, you know, when a body gets to connect with another body and gets to just be and listen, and oh God, it's just like so damn beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. I'm like, I just like.
And that was something that you were saying in the beginning, is that man by nature is such a physical being that he really has such a longing for that almost all the time. There's an aspect of needing and wanting that touch and to be met and to share in the physicality, and yet there's such a pressure to be a strong man and, you know, a contained man and a man that is in control of his feelings, when meanwhile your primal nature is just driving you in a sense to sort of, you know, be, you know, relating with all of it, right? There's an aspect of masculine that has the energy for that, right? The energy to make love to all of life. You know, like I want to, like, but there's such a denial of the basic sensuality of your being that it, you know, you have to compartmentalize. Well, like, I can only get this one need met in sex, and this other need maybe could be met in, you know, in relationship with my children, and I can hug my sister and, you know, kiss my mom on the cheek, but like, you know, and maybe every once in a while, if I'm involved, hug my, you know, male friends. But there's an element, right, to the masculine that really wants to have more of what it needs, because that's its nature. And so there's in owning your sensual nature, maybe there's a pathway there back to deeper love. And that's where I would say that my thing that I brought up about the disconnect with the mother and the disconnect from oxytocin, it's the oxytocin connection with the living, intimate, biological beings in your life that helps rebuild those pathways.
Yes. Yeah. That feels nice. That feels nice. Again, hey guys, we're face to face with the confusion. You know, whatever comes out of this is what comes out. I'm not trying to say that anything is the right way. I always say, don't believe me, don't believe yourself, and don't believe anybody else. But it's something your body knows when it hears something that feels like that knowing that I spoke about tonight. And there's something like, even when a man and a man hug, something really beautiful in a man and a man hugging, you know, it's like I've been able to experience this, and it's something so, everything you shared was lovely. And the word that kept popping up to me, Shelley, was sustain, you know, sustaining. You know, there's something in the physical touch that a man craves and yearns for that will not only sustain him, but it will empower him to move beyond this dysfunctional idea of seeking connection in all of these painful ways. And now I'm going to talk about rape and abuse and pedophilia and all of these other, you know, seriously, you know, painful ways of seeking love in what I would say are the wrong places. Violence towards women, domestic violence, anger, shouting. You know, men want to be hugged, man. They just want to be hugged, and they want to be stroked and caressed, and then just, like you said, sent out there and go, hey, do your thing, man. And it doesn't have to just be about women doing that. And women need that too. They need that nurture, that dance, so that then women can flower. It's so damn beautiful when we realize that we're together in this. It's not man, woman. It's woman. It's togetherness. It's like union. We're here to support each other. Oh man, I'm buzzing. Wow, 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 Should we see if we got some questions before I blow up? Let's see if we got some questions out there. What we got, peeps? Where's the Q&A? Alden said it's on the Q&A. All right, let's see the Q&A. I'm trying to find the damn Q&A, guys. Yeah, the Q&A was working. Okay, let me check it out. All right, he's saying the Q&A is working. No Q, I've got nothing. I've got no, here we go. Here we go. Click the select button to answer the question. Okay, I got it. I got it. It's working, Alden. All right, Alden's got us a question. So I don't know where we're at with time, but let's answer Alden's question. Hey, Alden, remember as it seems the indigenous people do, no real man or woman, just a heart sharing circle that discusses all issues. That's nice. And then his question, I like that. No real man or woman, just a heart sharing circle that discusses all issues. Do we as man need to learn a new way with the help of woman, or do we just need to remember?
I would say in some ways
go on.
Oh, I would say that in some ways that woman is the entry point for learning a new way, because and first and foremost, the woman in yourself, the woman as world, like your connection with the planet is another really, is an important access point. Learning to tune into nature and allow nature to nourish you in the places where maybe there was disconnect, and then and because the disconnect often is primarily in the beginning, it can be with mother. Relationship with woman is one of the gates to reconnection. It's not the only gate, because there's the other piece of how important. I actually think that it's really important for men, especially because masculine energy, then the energy of man and father, and it's an outward direction energy, right? It's the face that is in the world. And so the way I've been reflecting on it recently is that sort of means that men need they need to gather as a tribe and understand that outward reflection together. They need to get an outward reflection. If they always just come to woman for that connection, and they're going to be getting a different kind of feedback than they're going to get when they gather in groups together and cultivate. Like we're culminating and cultivating together the new energy. Now we're a collective outward expression, and we're an amplified father vibration, is the way I'd like to put it, in the world. And so that's very much needed. But there has to be some kind of a relationship with the feminine to also reestablish connect. Well, it doesn't even have to be the feminine in a woman. That I want to clarify that's kind of assumptive of me, because it's really the feminine energy that we're talking would aid in reconnection. Mm. So yeah, and so I also feel that connection with nature and the planet is a really important part of that. That will help bring balance, and that helps. We were talking about the needs of the sensuous nature being met. A lot of needs for, like, men go to women to get core sensual needs met. And I think that if that connection to the earth was reestablished, man knows he's tapped into the planetary energy. He knows where he's coming from. He knows that the planet is his true feminine reflection. And so then it's like that energy actually kind of holds a field for the man and woman to come together. They're more sovereign in the way that they meet, because the fundamental need for female connection is actually met through the planet. That's that's a kind of a unique realization that I just had recently. So I don't know if that's true. Maybe we could experiment with that in our relationships.
Yeah, we can experiment with all of that. I like how Alden wrote. Thank you for that, Shelley. Do we as men need to learn a new way with help of woman, or do we just need to remember? I think I answered that a little, Alden, and just before you read the question out to me, actually, I think you put the question on there, and I was just saying about how it's together, you know, it's this idea of that I'm a complete being, the woman's a complete being, we're already whole, we're already enough, we're already amazing, and then we come together, and then it's like that alchemical experience of what we can create together, which happens even in our so-called unconsciousness. And as you were speaking, again, you know, we talk about masculine, feminine, and the energy that's within each of us. And for those watching and listening, you know, there's a whole talk, many talks, exploration to even look at, you know, the masculine and female, feminine energies that we have within us as human organisms, as human cells. So yeah, again, there's no separation. And actually, as Alden wrote, woman, yeah, this idea of woman, the woman and the man in one. Maybe we should all just call ourselves womans. Yo, who are you? I'm a woman. I'm man and woman.
I'm a woman.
I'm a woman, man. I'm a woman. And, you know, but you said something lovely there, Shelley, which I think, based on time-wise, I'm sure we're going to explore a bit deeper with the connection to the planet in theme 4. Just based on everything we've talked about tonight, looking at time and what we want to say to wrap up, I think we only really have enough time for that one question, which I'd like there to be more questions, but there's only Alden's one that's come to us. And if I just check just one other place for us, which might be some questions, but yeah, there's no other questions really, which is maybe a good thing as well, time-wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe yeah, it's just a lot there. I'm just allowing some silence just to be with people watching, and also just to be with if you've come back and watched this on the replay. Sometimes I share loads of words and it can get also quite heady, you know, and try to come back into the body, and some of all that sounds great, and you get you know, you go off into intellectual space, but it's nice just to have a bit of silence and just allow all of that to settle and be with us. And I think if we bring it back maybe to close this conversation into a simple space, which is trusting you know, self-trust. Just what do you feel you as a man needs and wants? And I know this tonight's about man, so I'm speaking to the man, but for the woman as well. And can you just, even however challenging it might be, just communicate your needs, not feel bad or feel any shame or guilt or feel any like you're inadequate and you're not allowed to, just at least vent what you would need, what you want. And can we, I mean, this is something I ask myself, but can we just go into that vulnerable place and say, wow, I do need support. I need help in a moment, or this is what I feel, this is what I need, and explore that, and yeah, and just come into the body from that space and soften a little bit around there and see what that does for you. that would be, that's really practical for everybody. That's achievable for everybody, every man out there, every man watching this video. It's achievable for us while we're alive to ask, who are we and what's our contribution? I did that this week in the bath, just laid in the bath, beautiful, soaking, and as I say, just that same message kept coming through that we don't have to lie. We don't have to lie. There's no need to lie about anything, about a desire for connection, about a desire for sex, a desire for anything. We don't have to lie about it. So anyway, that's where I'm at. That it feels that, you know, a lot of the pain and suffering comes from the fact that we have to lie, and we don't. I'm saying as a man, you don't have to lie. So that's where I'm at, Shelley. I think maybe we could, if you're happy, we could sort of just say a little bit about the forum and then wrap it up, and let's do. Well, we've got another question now, but that's a bit. That would take us into another 10 minutes if we answer this question. I'll read it out though, shall I? What do you think, Shelley?
I mean, we have another 10 minutes about. we
have another 5 hours.
It's totally your call. I can't see the question, so
I'll tell you.
I'm open.
Okay, good. So I really need a wee. So if we answer this question, I've got to go for a wee, okay?
Okay.
It's a nice question, though. It's a nice question. It's a really nice question. Thank you, Aquarius 1986. What do you think men can do to dismantle the toxic masculinity dominating our culture and media? Many aware men are afraid of speaking out to other men. Even a lot of spiritually seeking men still participate in this. How can more awareness be raised? So, what do you, as I said,
can you read the first line of that again? I didn't catch it.
I think we've covered a lot of this tonight, but however, it's still a good question. What do you think men can do to dismantle the toxic masculinity dominating our culture and media? And it said, and underneath that, it says many aware men that have become more aware maybe to themselves and life are afraid of speaking out to other men. So I mean, personally, I feel we've covered a lot of that tonight of ways that we can dismantle that toxic masculinity. But I mean, if you feel something's coming up, Shelley, I really have to go for a wee, so I just have to leave, okay?
Okay. So I guess what the parts where we were just addressing the more that men dismantle that toxicity in their own, with self-love and in their own beings, the more they'll discover the freedom that can be, and will actually want to share the good news of the freedom and consciousness, the freedom and sovereignty that comes from having a deeper relationship with yourself. And there's an energy in the masculine that naturally wants to protect and defend and support and nourish a true freedom consciousness. I think there's an aspect of the element that is a freedom embodiment. And so I think and then I think one of the first pieces too is just acknowledging that there is kind of an enslavement in the consciousness that perpetuates misogyny, in the consciousness that perpetuates a constriction of your full nature as a woman, man, woe, a man, woe. If the fullness of your being, of yourself, the truth of your being is denied, how are you going to have the courage to confront that in others. It's a collective agreement field to keep everything, you know, it's a collective dampening on truth. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because it, if anything, what more even above and beyond my answer, it's really that you brought our awareness to the fact that part of what keeps the potential of our awareness enslaved is that tendency to all agree to turn a blind eye to what's going on, or to even be so enmeshed in it that we don't even know that we are. But so for those of you that do know that, you know, they see something else or another way, and you want to bring light, you want to bring consciousness to the world. The root really lies in in that relationship with yourself, with ourself. It's a monkey.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank God! I need a monkey right now.
I agree. I agree. You know what I'm saying? I agree. I agree. I know what you're saying there. You know what? You know what was super cool about that?
I've got
monkey. You got a monkey. You got a real monkey. Is that a real monkey? Okay, so this is how we roll, yeah? This is how crazy life is. If you can't hang out with a monkey, you can't hang out with anyone. So basically, I want to say thank you to Aquarius. I want to say thank you to Aquarius 1986, because when I was in the toilet, what I heard, which was beautiful, and I came back and I heard most of what you shared, so it was lovely. But what I heard is this beautiful thing about self-love. So ultimately, it's the journey of self-love. And we, as much as we've, sometimes if we use the word self-love, it can, again, these words, these sort of group of words can mean so much. But what we're talking about is you can't actually speak your truth until you love yourself. Like, not fully, because it's actually a self-loving act to communicate your truth. It's actually a self-loving act to, you know, come back to yourself and give yourself what you need and ask for what you want and need. You know, these are simple self-loving acts, but we actually have forgotten them. We don't even honor them or respect them as self-loving acts. So for me, when I talk about transparent communication, I say it's the language of love. It's the language of self-love. It's when you make a decision not to lie, and you make a decision to, like Aquarius asked, speak to men about what you're really afraid of. That's this massive self-loving act. Shelley's taken it to a whole nother level. What have you got now? 3 monkeys?
I have another monkey.
What is that? You got another monkey? Yes, I can't believe you was dying for the monkeys to come out, weren't you? I pulled the monkey card. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So thank you for that question. I hope that, well, we're not, you know, you probably know the answer to that question when you ask it yourself as well, like all these questions, but amazing that you're here and you're with us. And so that one's cool. Okay, that was nice. That was a nice way to end, actually. I'm really thankful for that question.
I think we're complete on self-love.
How many monkeys you got? That's the 3rd one.
Okay. Well, see, a friend he knows how much I like need monkey love right now, so he actually brought the rest of the monkeys in.
No way. You've taken monkeys to the extreme. I feel like I need to go and get another animal.
Oh, I'm sorry, but this isn't a competition. A monkey love competition.
I'm out with a monkey love.
But
the monkey love are hanging out.
About monkeys, I realized is it helped me like this tenderness sort of come over me when I connected with these little soft, furry, cuddly.
You mean tonight or in general?
Yeah, tonight, but also yesterday these monkeys came out and I was like, oh, monkeys. you know, and then I found myself throughout the day, I was like, oh, babies, they're so cute. You know, there's like that, just that tenderness to like love and, you know, have, that's a real childlike quality, right? That to just, to have love, and that's part of what we were talking about, and needing and wanting to connect with the sensuous. It's like we naturally want to experience our world as love, and in a sensuous way. We want to have connection with the living world and with that tender, vulnerable part of ourselves. First, so.
Yeah. So tonight, so a quick. You have one. You can say one sentence to this, okay, Shelley? So, okay. What? Put your monkeys away now. You're taking it to the extreme. So, what about? Just. Listen, right? Feel like I'm out. Hey. So what I'm saying, what's the outcome of the new codex of the man, and there's no outcome. So I think I better just leave it open for our beautiful viewers, and should we just share a little bit about next week and then rock and roll? Thumbs up. Okay, wonderful people.
Okay. Next week we're gonna continue the conversation a little bit about that intersection where we meet in relationship, and then we're gonna have some fun continuing the conversation about children. What is it that children are bringing to help us create this beautiful new world, and what is the role of family in that? And each of those conversations, you know, is a personal deep dive for each of us. Neither Simon and I know anything about, but we felt it was an important exploration. I especially think that children have a really, like, us learning to honor the children in ourselves. Obviously, we need to connect, and the actual children, those that are coming, you know, the next generation. So we're going to get into that a little bit more and have some fun, and
wonderful.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's next week. Family, relationships, children, family. We're gonna wrap that all up, and then the following week is gonna be just a kind of a completing of the three, and looking at how that intersects as community, and how that translates to how together as community we care for the planet.
Beautiful. Yeah. And okay, amazing. I just want to say that there's an amazing book for those that might watch this, and I'm reading this book at the moment on Simon on the Bed, and I'm reading chapter for chapter for this book. This is one of the most amazing books that I've read in the last year. There are many books, but this is one, the more beautiful way our hearts knows possible. If you haven't read it or you haven't picked it up, you could either listen to me reading it on Simon on the sofa bed. I was going to say Simon on the sofa bed because I lived on a sofa bed for like nearly 7 years. But that's an amazing book by Charles Eisenstein. And I just want to say that there's a forum, okay? We created a forum on Facebook. If you love Facebook, if that's one of your social media platforms, there is a forum. The link is below these the YouTube videos. And me and Shelley are going to be navigating in there a little bit. We're going to create a video over this coming week just to share about what we feel that forum is about. So it just doesn't become a lot of noise, but so that we can actually maybe carve away some of the surface stuff and get to a deeper layer of communication and connection. And other than that, please, just want to send my deepest appreciation and gratitude to you for watching and being with us, diving with us, the live viewers, and also you that come back on replay. And I know these are 2-hour dives, and that's for some people just won't go there. But if you've made the decision to come on this journey with us, as I have with a number of other people along the way, and sometimes listen for hours upon hours of conversation, then this is all part of the reprogramming and enabling ourselves to feel supported so that we can co-create new worlds and write new stories of realities. So thank you for listening to us. Thank you for taking part. Feel free to share, subscribe, and do the usual stuff. But these are given to us. These are given to you as a gift. And they're a gift to me and Shelley, but they're also given to you as a gift and everybody else. And this is a part of our contribution to where we are in evolution. So thank you for being here. If you want to say anything, Shelley, I will say goodbye. Lots of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. I feel complete until we meet again.
Till we meet again. Bye-bye, Shelley. Thank you.
Bye.